Shir sponsor Lului Nishmas Ayin Yakasholim Leabas Yitzchok. We're holding about Kamo Daf Hey, starting in the bottom of the Hey.
Shine? Yeah.
Shine.
Some more.
Oh, he's a Daf Hey.
Avdalda with base on the bottom. We're starting in the Gemara on the bottom. It says we ended before the end of the daf when the Gemara in the Tanya Rabchia. Tanya Rabchia is about 10, 11 lines on the bottom. The Gemara brings Tanya Rabchia is 3 Arba Avos Tizikim. So we learned in our Mishnah Arba Avos Tizikim. Then we saw that Rabbi Shaya says Shloisha Asar Avos Tizikim, 13. Now we have Rabbi Chia that says there's 24 of us Ezekiel. What are 24 of us Ezekiel? What is he adding over what we had before? It says Tashlumi Kefel. When a Ganov steals, he has to pay Kefel. But Tashlumi Arba v'Chamisha needs to pay the 4 and 5 when he steals a sheep and he shechts it or sells it. V'Ganov v'Gazlon. Ganov has to pay the Karen, as Rashi says, and the Gazlan has to pay the Karen. Ve'edim zoymimim, in the case of Eidim zoymimim, where they have to pay. Ve'oines, who's chayav chamish v'sloim. V'amefates, someone who seduces a girl. Umoitzi shemra, right, is also the Avta Shlumim. Ve'ametame, someone's betame, the tarois of his friend. Ve'amedameya, he mixes up the trumo and chulin together. Ve'amenasech. What's a menasech? So Rashi brings a menasech here means he literally was menasech lavid zora. He went into the zora. Says Rashi, why? Because if you're talking about that he mixed up the yain nesech with the regular wine, so then what did he lose? He just sells the wine without the yain nesech. So I'm going to talk about menasech. And all the Mefarshim asking Rashi, this is a Gemara we just learned recently in Maseches Gittin. In Maseches Gittin there's 2 shitas. And one shita holds, the Mechlekes Rav Shmuel, and Shmuel learns that menasech means ma'arif. It doesn't mean menasech. So why is Rashi taking like the other side over here? What's shot? Someone will say that Rashi is bringing the Taina of Rav. Someone explain why specifically over here in Bobekamo, we're talking about Ovos Ezekin, cannot talk about the case of Shmuel, which let's say it's not a Yesod or so one way to say it. So we said here a list of 11. It says the Gemara, and including in that is and you have the 13 that we mentioned before. That's total 24. So you have 24. Why? Because you have 13 of Rabbi Shaya, and then you have another 11 that Rabbi Chia adds. So together that's 24. That's together 24. Says the Gemara, Rabbi Shaya, my time Eloitani. Why Rabbi Shaya said it, did not mention the other ones that Rabbi Chia is mentioning. Why is he omitting these 11? Says the Gemara, Hani be'amoyne kamori be'knoso loy kamai. I want to speak about moment. I want to speak about knas. And many of the cases that Rabbi Chia speaks about is including knas, like kefil, for example. Kefil is a knas. To play double. Anything you play more or less than when you're mazik is a knas zog Rashi. Says the Gemara, V'ganav v'gazlan do amoinu litin. What about ganav v'gazlan? Not kefil. Ganav and gazlan, they each one pay the one tashlum. The one tashlum is a carrot. Says the Gemara, K'tami lo shemechino v'asho. We didn't mention shemechino v'asho. For Moshe point out here, the shayl is not necessarily relates to what we're talking about. But shoy mechinam is why? Because shoy mechinam, you can have a concept called toyen tainas ganav. What's a toyen tainas ganav? We're going to learn this later in the Masechta. If a shoy mechinam means someone who's a guardian, and the owner comes and says, "Where is my item I gave it to guard?" He says it was stolen. I'm pata. Then you find out it wasn't stolen, so then he has to pay kefil. So he also has a din of, there's a concept of gnevo by shoy mechinam.
So when he says it's a Talmud, when he says these two, they're not Talmuds of.
Oh, it is Chayov, but it's not one of the obvious Nezikim.
He says
it's a kras.
Like a subcategory.
We're looking for Avos Nizikin. Is this, what are you talking about?
Including it on the Rishayim and then on the Shayim.
Oh, sure, we reference it. We'll see in a moment in the Gemara, we get later in the Amud. Why is this Av? 24 Avos Nizikin. Where does it make it Av? Where's the Tolodos of all 24? So that's the Gemara we'll get to. We'll mix it out. The more really mentioned, it is mentioned, it's included. For Abchio Nami Atanilei, Sure Mechina Bashir, so Rabbi Abchio, he also knows this mentioned. Says the Gemara, Tani Mamoina Dosala De Be'etero, Tani Mamoina Dosala De Be'isur. Yeah, there's two different types of money. There's money that person stole right from the beginning, it came to him Be'isur, and there's the money that person was guarding, it came to him rightfully, then he didn't give it back. Two different categories, it's not included in the same one. Says the Gemara in Daf Hemud Aleph, Eidim Zoyim in the Mamoino Litni. What about Eidim Zoyim? Eidim Zoyim is Mamoino. We'll get back to that in one moment. Says the Gemara, Sovel Kebbe Akiva Do Mei Mishal Mi Al Piatzma. You also Kebbe Akiva, the old Eidim Zoyim do not pay if they admit it, which means it's not a moment, it's a knas. That's the category of a knas. Once you admit, you don't pay. Says the Gemara, Sovel Kebbe Akiva. If you do all the Kebbe Akiva, Lidri Trey Gam Nishar. There's two types of shor. Earlier we said we don't speak of two types of shor, because we said that shor that's mazik a shor, and a shor that's mazik adam have the same din, the same category. You always pay the same thing. So that's not true according to Rabbi Akiva. Why not? Lidni shor dazik shor, lidni shor dazik adam. We should speak about two different categories. The not Rabbi Akiva imer af tam shechava ba'adam mishal yumoysen ezik shalom. Akiva says if you have a shor tam who hits a adam, he doesn't pay half an ezik like he does when he gores a shor. He pays an ezek shalom. So what do you see over here? You see that according to Rabbi Akiva, there's a difference between shor shenogach chod and shor shenogach behem. Says the Gemara, Tavi Rabbi Akiva exists. Rabbi Akiva broke his strength. He really didn't stay with it so much. Why? The time Akiva cholav tam shechol ba'odam mishal min aliyah. Do you think that at time the herd Adam will pay min aliyah? What's it mean min aliyah? Regardless of what he's worth. Let's say the time is worth 10 and he hurt somebody for 100. Could he pay 100? No. You pay migufa, you don't pay min aliyah, meaning what? Sure, that time that gores an Adam, even though he pays nezek shalom, if it's worth it, if he's not worth it, he doesn't pay it. So therefore what? So Rashi says, so many times he won't pay more than Chatz Nezek. We want to say that look at the difference between according to Rabbi Akiva, there's a difference between short time. There's mazik odom, short time, mazik shor, not necessarily. Depends how much the shor is worth. That's what I didn't want to mention. It could be chatz, it could be less, it could be more. Torah doesn't like that. He says, so what? But many times it won't be a difference, right? That's what he says. Sometimes will be more. Today it says we can't say avos because avos nezikin. The definition of avos is that you pay min aliyah. That's the definition. Av nezikin pays min aliyah, pays the full amount. If you don't pay the full amount, you're not av nezikin. That's why you can't mention it. Not because you will sometimes pay more, but it's not an av nezikin. That's why I didn't want to mention both. Now, there's two halakhos over here regarding this idea called Eidim Zoyim. Two things over here in this sukkah. So number one is what we just saw. The Gemara says there's a machlekes of Eidim Zoyim is a moment of knas. Rakiva says Eidim Zoyim is a knas. L'chura that will make sense, right? Because what Eidim Zoyim do? Eidim Zoyim went and they said that this guy owes money. Now, even if he didn't pay, they still have to pay.
Not even if, only if.
Oh, that's the second point I wanted to get to. But you're magdim, TV is magdim. So let's go straight with what the TV says. Tony says a big chiddush over here in the end of the one base. Tony says that by mamoin, we know the Eidim Zoyim is kasher zom v'lo kasher also. Eidim Zoyim, they intended to kill somebody else. If they killed him, you don't do for them anything. If they did not kill, then you kill them. That's the Kalal Maseches Makos. It says places over here, that's only regarding the Nefashos. Story. But legabe mamoin, for money, even kasha also you pay. Let's look this. If you look this inside, if you just see it, look at the right side of the Tafdal, the base on the bottom. Toys it says Eidim Zoyimim, Pir Shiva, Even if you pay. Why? He goes to explain two explanations why not. A, it's never kasher also. What does it mean kasher also? You already paid. So pay it back. No harm, no foul. You know what's the problem? Give it back. Misa, once you're dead, you can give it back. But moment you can give it back. So really nothing happened yet. That's Riva's explanation. The Riva's explanation, because what's the reason I'm not mechayev after he did? Tibi knows what's the reason? Because the choice is kasher zomam. How do you know lo kasher also? Kavachaymer. We should kavachaymer in kasher zomam. Kasher also says the Gemara Makis ain't onshim minadin. I can't do kavachaymer. Ain't onshim minadin. That's only b'isurim. The moment you do onshim minadin. That we saw already in that base places mentioned. So it says places Eidim Zoyim from women will pay even if they cause damage. So that goes to what TB mentioned. Is there such a thing that Eidim Zoyim pay if they pay? But regardless, they will be for sure pay both. Kasha Zoma and Kasha also. By moment. Is it a knas or not a knas? You can hear it very much as a knas. Why? They didn't really do anything. Even if they didn't pay, if he didn't pay, for sure they didn't do anything. Even if they paid, it wasn't direct. They set the base. They basically caused it. You can hear very much as a knas. Rabbanon hold Eidim Zoyim is a moment. So more says. Whereas why don't say Eidim Zoyim? According to Rabbanon, it's more called according to Rabbi Kiva, it's a knas. According to Rabbanon, it is a moment. Why according to Rabbanon it's a moment? I don't understand the fact that it's a moment. So the Achronim bring different ways to say it. The way the Kovetz Shurim says it, Pshat is, that the idea of Eidim Zoyim is, whatever they intended to give to the other, goes on them. It's exactly because that's how it works. But it became that there was their judgment. They went to Beis Din and said, this guy owes money. They go instead of him, now they owe money. They become the ones who owes money. So it's not a class anymore. It's money. Yeah, it's not fair that they got to that situation. Very good. But once they got to that situation, it becomes money. Okay. So Zog to Gemara, what about as we'll see, not talking about the knas part, but the other payments you have to pay. Why don't you mention that in the list of Rabbi Shai? Says the Gemara, what exactly payment are you talking about? Nezek, that they damage tunneling. We did say nezek. Itzar, that they cause pain, tunneling. Iboishes, they have to pay for the embarrassment, tunneling, because we said the Chamisha Dvarim. Ipgam, ein nezek. Ipgam means that she's worth less. Ma'isachamir, Knosa. I want to say Knosa, but Knosa will come out. You want to speak about Knas. So Gemara says that's the reason Rabbi Shai did not mention. He causes damage to his friend. If you hold this is a real nezek, we said nezek. It's a knas. Why are you paying if you didn't do anything? If it's a it's a knas. Knas will come. Says the Gemara. Rabbi Chia said, Rabbi Chia, that mentioned the 24 hours Nezikin, L'chura, he holds that doing one of these things, Menaseh, again, making maybe to just explain it a little bit more. Menaseh, what does it mean? He made the item of a desire. Do you see any difference? If you look at it, do you see any damage? You don't see any damage. But it has spiritually a damage. Same thing you have by Medamea. You put together Truma, Chulin, you don't see any difference. So you don't see it. It's a Shanikar. Why is Rabbi Chia putting that as a new category? Isn't it part of Nezek? Elamai, you see Rabbi Chia holds that what? It's not part of Nezek. So Gemara says, the issue in Nezek, Hatan Nezek. So Gemara, no. It could be holds it is Nezek. Tana Ezek, the Mikra, Betana Ezek, the Mikra. I want to speak about things that are clear that's a Nezek. I want to say about things that are not clear, even though it also is a different Nezek. But I want to mention that. So Bishop Torah Didon, by us, our Tana said, Arbo is Nezikin. Arbo. Tana minyona lemut to the Rabbi Shai. I said 4 to say not 13. To Rabbi Shai, Tana minyona lemut to Rabbi Chia. Rabbi Shai said 13 to say not 24. Ela minyona Rabbi Chia lemut yamai. What's the B'chia coming to your mind? It says more than Milute Moiser Umefagel. Moiser is someone who goes and stinks to the Malchus. Says, oh, this guy, take taxes from him. So he's causing him to lose money. Umefagel is someone who ruins the korban of his friend. If you look at Lashon Rashi, Rashi brings over here, Mazim Mefagel, Koyin Shishol Korbanos Sheyisrael Chatos L'Shum Shlomi. He did Chatos for the intention to do Shlomi. Right? So first you point out over here, the Maharam Moshe brings it here, we have it in Menachos also in Gittin. Rashi says that Rashi in Gittin says that the Machshava was to eat the korban chutz zman. Pigul, exactly. Shmoi people, yeah, chutz zman. So why Rashi is changing? Why Rashi says they did chatos l'shum shlomi? The Chaynin discussed this in length. Different answers. One answer mentioned over here, with the mitzvah and brings it in the Masechta, he says, sounds like this. How long can you eat chatos? How long is the time limit to eat chatos? 1 day and a night. And how long you eat shlomim? 2 days. So chatos and shlomim means he's going to eat it in the second day, which means chutz zman. It's really the same thing, the two Rashis. Why Rashi changed? So you need to be behind. That's a cute way that Chayim say the Rashi is not contradicting himself. So that's the two things that B'chia is coming to explore. So why didn't you mention it? I didn't want to speak about Kochim. Ela Moiser, my time Elotani. Why didn't you say Moiser? Shani Moiser Dibur B'Dibur L'Kamayim. Moiser is only with Dibur. How does Moiser work? The person goes and speaks to the Goyim. I don't want to speak about it's something which is only a Dibur. Saying, well, Moiser Shemra the Dibur V'Ktani. Well, Moiser Shemra. Moiser Shemra is a Dibur. So what Dibur the Isbei Maisehu. It's a Dibur that has within a Maise. Why it's a Dibur that has within a Maise? Because you have Be'ilah. He did Be'ilah and he says, that's what I saw. What about Edim Zayim? They just go and testify. Right, it's not a Maise, but the Torah categorized it as a Maise. Like he did. Our Tana says Avois, there's Tolodis. As we learned, you have all the things that are similar to Shane, to Regel, to Karen. Told the same idea. What is the Tolodis of all this very long list? They all are like Avos, they pay Meitav. They pay the highest field that the owner has, and you pay the full amount from the best field. My time, what's the reason? Asya tachos nesino yishalem kesef. Every one of these mazikin has one of these 4 words: tachos nesino yishalem kesef, and immediately you learn with these words to meitav that it says by a short. It's a very, very long Rashi. What Rashi really does is he goes through all the mazikin and shows which pasuk says on each one. So we're not going to read the whole Rashi. Just want to read the beginning of the Rashi, where he says the rule. Rashi was the Rashi. The kuluchtiv oy tachas. Either it says the word tachas. So we mean tachas mishor amud lungs shavo. The chtiv is shor tachas ashor. Ma also in meitav. How do you know that shor you pay meitav by shor muad? The goma mishem regel. Lo mishem regel. The chtiv meitav sadeh. Avkan meitav. So meitav it says mishem regel. And Karen learns from there, and there it says tachas. So that's one word. Or nesi, another word nesino. Go nesi mishor shanoga se'eved. You learn from shor that gored a slave. Tibi yiten la doinov. From there you learn. Or yishalem. The go mishor regular tibi meitav karmo yishalem. Or kesef. The 4th word is kesef. The guy in the boy the tibi kesef yeshiva alav. And that's and it goes on. So and you all learn from Shem Regel, and that's where you learn it from. It says the Gemara, that's what the 24 of us Zikin are. Each one has the idea of as one of the words that bring it connected to Shar and tell you that bring word. Just want to mention one thing. This will be Be'ez Hashem Shom Machshav of Yestei's Daf. But just what the Vilna Gaon mentions later in the Masechta he brings. We have 4 hours of Zikin, we have 13 hours of Zikin, we have 24 hours of Zikin. These are random numbers. So we know a rule in Torah, the numbers of Chazal are never random. Never random. There always is a meaning to it. So the Vilna Gaon tells us a little bit of it. I'm just going to say in one line, and how I write to Yeshua, anybody wants to hear a little bit more, tune into the Shom Machshava of Daf Dalet. The Gaon says like this. The Mezikin represent the bad in the world. That's what we spoke about in the beginning of the Masech. Connected to Arba Avos Mezikin, you have the good in the world. And the good in the world is represented by the name of Hashem. That's the Gilul Kedusha. The name of Hashem is made out of how many letters? 4. Yud Kei Vav Kei. That's our Bava. There's four letters for the main name of Hashem. Connect that you have our Bava Zizik. That's why it's Ar. What is 24? So we know that you have Tzirufim. Tzirufim is, I can make several Tzirufim with the 4 letters. Let's say, taking the name of Hashem, we'll take it for a second, then we'll dissect from there. You have Yud Kei Vav Kei. You can write Yud Kei Vav Kei. You can write Yud Vav Hey Hey. You can write Yud Hey Hey Vav. You can do different tzirufim. If I have 4 different letters, how many tzirufim do I get? 24. That's the rule. You have 24 different ways to combine it. Combinations. So the way we pronounce Yud Kei Vav Kei is with the word Adnus, Aleph Daled Nun Yud. And Aleph Daled Nun Yud has 24 combinations. The Sirma Arba was Zikin, that's us brought down also in the Arizal. The Arizal has a sefer called Likutei Hashas. Doesn't have a lot, but Rabbi Bakame has Sirma Arba was Zikin. Can I get 24 tzirufim of Adnus, which can I do? It's connected to Sirma Arba Kishuti Kalo, which is a 24 Sfarim of Tanakh. Alright, so we have 24. What is 13? Yud Kei Vav Kei itself doesn't have 24. Why not? It doesn't have 24. Because there's one letter which is double. The letter Hey. I can write, let's call it Yud Vav, and then Hey Rishayna, Hey Achrayna, or Yud Vav, Hey Achrayna, Hey Rishayna. Doesn't matter, it's the same word. I don't know which one is first, which one is last. So when I don't have 4 separate letters, I have 4, the 2 of them are the same letters, you have only 12 tziruf. We're a little bit familiar with it. Why are we familiar with it? Because if you open Siddur, the art school put it only in Nusach Sfarad. You open Nusach Sfarad Siddur in Musaf Rosh Chodesh, and you get to the bracha of Mekadesh Chodoshim. You have there in the bottom the 12 ways how to pronounce how to write the name Yud Kei Vav Kei. Because of the Sefer Bnei Yissaschar, every month has its own serif. You should have kavanah when you say Baruch Atah Hashem in the middle of bracha of Birkas Rosh Chodesh. Do we have Rosh Chodesh? You have a different serif, right? So we have 12. The Kayadua, whenever you have 12, you have one who combines all of them together. Where do we know that? One example, we know the name, Maharal says it. When you have the name, the word Echot is connected, Aleph is connected Yaakov Avinu, Ches is connected the 8 Shvatim, which are Bnei Aimois, and 4 is connected the 4 Shvatim, Bnei Hashvachas. So you have 12 plus 1, goes to be 13. You have 12 months in the year, you have a 13th month, which is Chodesh Adar, Chodesh Ibur, other base. Always you have the 12 and the 13. So if the Goyen, that's why Rabbi Shai says you have 13 of his Nizikin. So it's different combinations. Either you have the 4, you have the Yud Kei Vav Kei, which is 12 plus 1, or you have the 24 Tzirufim of Anus. It's not just a random number. There is meaning to these numbers. To understand why these numbers belong to each one, why they chose this combination, which are this combination, that's a Torah B'fnei. But just to know that these numbers are not just random. So the Gemara. You can't compare the short to Mave. Mike Omar, what is the meaning is Rashi told us both in the Mishnah and in the previous daf. Let's just write one and learn the other one for them. So why you have to write everything? Just write Shar and you learn out of it. Then we say you can't learn one from another. And then we're explaining why. You can't learn that Adam and Shar have life. You can't learn from there to fire or to burn. My call. How does that work? This is what the Gemara means. Continue on with the same logic. You write 2 overs, and you're going to learn one from it. Then he said, I can't learn one from 2 different ones. I can't. Rava, says Rava, Vikulu kishod yizbor b'nayu, osir kulu b'metzat. The varmikar. Anyone, if I put bor in one of the others, I can learn all the others from them, except Karen. Why can I learn Karen? All the other others, they become more immediately. But Mashenke Karen not. Right? So Karen is different. According to Vanova, they learns that Karen is greater because it has kavan lazik. This goes back to most the discussion here. What does it mean? The Vilna Gaon Pash tells us we're going back to the previous daf where the Gemara told us that what's greater, Shen or Karen? It's going to say maybe Shen is greater because there's ain't kavanos lazik. So the Gemara, no, Adarabba, Karen is greater because kavanos lazik has intention to do bad, so it's worse. So according to that, that's even worse. If you look Karen Namias, so is the Karen that comes out. How does it come out? So Rashi here also a very, very long Rashi. If you look at the left side of the page, you have a very long Rashi. Rashi goes on to show you how all of them could work. Let's just see one example. Because Rashi is going to go through all the examples of the Mishnah. We're going to just learn the first one. So look Rashi. You would say bor, and one of the other others, you would learn from it everything else. And he says example. If it says bor and Karen, ask the Shem now. Shem will learn from there. Ma bor shein darko lechulazik chayov. Bor doesn't move. Does bor move? No. It's chayov. Shen shedarko lechulazik. Shen that does move. Look, kosher is chayov. Ma lebosh ketchas tiyasoim elezek. Bor starts as a nezek. What is the purpose of a bor? Bor when it begins, even if maybe you use it for other things, but bor right away is a takala. Right away is a problem. Terbe Shen is just meant to eat. Karen Yuchiyah, be right from Karen. The what? The Karen is a nezek. Malakaren she can't cover no so lazik. Karen, he was intentional to do nezek. Bor Yuchiyah, bor there's no intention to do nezek. The Chazar Adin. Tzad the Shavah Shabem Shadar Kol Lozik Wamoni Choshmas Alecho. Oh, your mom and you have to guard it. Whenever you shame, and that's how it goes on. That's how Rashi goes on to say all of them. Basically, if you would put bor in one of them, you could learn all the other others. I don't have to learn everything else. Says the Gemara. So why do I have all the different ones? Says not because the teacher that you chayav. According to Rashi, it's very geshmak. Because according to Rashi, we were trying to figure out the chayav. Says where I know you chayav. So why we have the different ones to tell you the halachas. Karen lechalik bin tamu lemuedis. Karen, you want to differentiate if it's a tamu or muad. Shen beregel lefortune b'shus rabbi. Shen beregel you potter b'shus rabbi. That's the thing. Shem beregel the shus rabbi is potter. Bor liftor b'os akelim. Bor when that if cleave a vessel falls into the bor, you're potter. With Rabbi Yehuda mechav and iski kelim bebor liftor b'os adam. According to Rabbi Yehuda, you aren't chav a kelim. Is to tell you that adam is potter. Because we're going to learn shor v'la adam chamor v'la kelim. Adam who falls into a bor and he dies, so he's going to be he's potter. Adam l'chayiv b'barba. What's Adam unique? L'chayiv chamisha dvar. The fourth nezek plus 4. Eish. What's unique about Eish? Lifter boy satam. By Eish you want to be pointer the what's hidden. That's a din. That if there's a fire that goes and it burns let's say a gadish, and in the gadish there was a treasure, you're not chayav in the treasure. According to Abudo, that he is all then you chayav in this moment. You're chayav in this moment. So sorry, this kitomun beish. So you chayav in it. Lasuy mai. What's going to teach you? Come to tell you that even if the fire burned, nira means the plowing. Someone plowed the field, and the fire came and ruined it. Or he took the stone and made the stone black. Even though it's not a real fire, it's not really consuming, you're still chayav on that. That's the reason that we mention Eish, to tell you that Eish is unique, that even though he did not really do something, right? Even though just hold on to it, as Rashi says, if you look at Loshen Rashi, beginning of the narrow lines, having cost of Eish, the chayav b'ani, the not close to Moyasod, the Loshemim, you can't learn from the other ones. If I didn't really consume it, didn't really do it. So that's why it's different. Just to conclude over here with two short hours. One other is Rashi says in this very long Rashi wants to tell you that Shane, there's no such thing by Shane that it does something which is Ein Roy. But you're going to have things which are not appropriate for the bird. For example, Adam and Kalim. By Shane, you don't have it. That's what Rashi wants to say. Tai says disagrees with Rashi. Tai says there's no such thing. If a Shane is eating something that's appropriate for the Shane, so that's called eating. If it's something eating that's not appropriate for it, it's a Karen. There's no such thing as inappropriate for the Shane. Rashi learns such a thing that inappropriate for the Shane, and this is a big discussion we'll get to later in the Masechta. What is the definition of a Shane? What's included in it? The second Nekuda here is the Birkas Shmuel. Because Shmuel here in the beginning of Kama says Dover Nifla Moed. A lot to think about. Because Shmuel says we just now listed all the things that are unique for each of those. We're the Pater. And we said like this: Shen Veregel is Pater in Rishus Harabim. Is it Pater of Asur, or it's Pater, or is it Chai B'din Shamayim? Did he do anything wrong? Or is that even Chai B'din Shamayim? So the Birkas Shmuel brings a raya from Tosfos L'Kamon Daf Chof that you're completely Pater. You're completely Pater. It makes sense. Why? If you think about it, just without going too much deep into it, Svaru. What's Shen Vereg Rishus Harabim? You let the animals walk Rishus Harabim. In the middle of the walking, they stepped on something. What do you want them not to walk? They saw food on the street. They ate. You want them not to eat while they walk and see food in the street? You can't complain about an animal who's walking normally and doing Shen Vereg. Says the Birkas Shmuel, but when it says that by fire you Pater on Tamun, or by bor you Pater on Kalim, you Pater b'din Shamayim Adam, but Chai b'din Shamayim. Yeah, the Torah says you Pater, but you still did something wrong. And taking this Savar we just said, there's no reason to differentiate why a fire should be Pater when it's covered. This exists the concept. So you Pater b'din Adam, b'Chai b'din Shamayim. Big chiluk of Birkas Shmuel over here between the Pturim of Shen V'Regel and the Ptur of the other others. We'll talk about this also later in the Masechta, but we're running out of time, so we are stopping over here, and we will be together tomorrow.